I think Amazon might show product to the ideal customer.
So these are my two, takeaways from manager experiments.
So is there any specific order that we need to follow?
So people can, it's an extreme use of that product.
How much risk we can take for the main image?
That's what I have seen, which works really well.
Is there any specific software that you suggest to put those keywords?
Ecom Squeezed podcast.
Welcome to Ecom Squeezed. I am your host, Sebastian, founder of Retail-Outsource. And today we have a very special guest, Kamaljit Singh. He is the CEO and founder of AMZ One Step. And he is here to share his insights on mastering Amazon creatives. Kamal is not just an expert. He is a member of Forbes Council and have an impressive track record of creating more than 100,000 infographic images for Amazon sellers. Welcome to the show, Kamal.
Thank you so much, Seb. I'm super excited to be here, and thank you so much for the warm introduction. Excited to talk about one of my favorite chapters, increasing conversions or making the looking creatives. So super excited for the show.
Great. Good to hear. So my first question will be, the first step is to take the image, right, of the product, whatever you are selling. So I assume you offer that service, right? So we have like powerful mobiles nowadays. So what's your opinion on taking the image with like an iPhone 15 or Pixel, or compare that to the taken professional? What kind of impact we can see if you compare them both?
I think if you're doing a private label, if you have your own brand, I would not really recommend, taking a picture from your cell phone. It used to work like really good, before 2015, you would just take a picture from your cell phone, edit with, your seller app, just remove the background, put it on up, Amazon, and it would still work. But Amazon is very competitive right now, right? So you're all competing for the first top, 3 to 4 spots, on the ranking. So pretty much all this. So if you want to be the top, top 3 sellers, one of those, your main image is the gateway to your listing. If that picture is not professional or other images are better looking than yours, the chances of you being in the top 3 positions is very low, because your listing is not going to get clicks, which means no sales, which also means, your PPC. Amazon also likes to, reward your PPC if Amazon does see a relevancy. Like if Amazon knows that if people are not going to click on your listing, they will not even, make your listing visible on the keywords that you're bidding. So it's not just like picture taken from a cell phone versus camera. There's like a huge benefit behind the images that I would not recommend taking from the cell phone. But if you are a really good designer, or if you're doing a 3D rendering, then you can take pictures from your cell phone and then maybe get that 3D rendered. That is one way of doing things, unless you are a pro with iPhone or like a really good camera and you can really take good pictures, then feel free to do that. So the goal is always to break the pattern, look better than others. If you can do it with a cell phone, go ahead. But if not, do not risk,
yeah, of course, yeah. So if you have a big stock, it's a good way that you do the things properly, right? And image is one of the main, as you mentioned, that's the right way, the gateway to your PDP, right? So yeah, that's great. I want to pick your brain on, we have a lot of softwares, right? Like PickFu to test the images, right? And the creatives. My concern with those softwares are like, the people behind who is selecting, AB or whatever image is selecting, are they the right, ICP, for example? So I'm not sure, they might miss a lot of points, maybe they just select what the image is, right? I don't know. What's your take on that?
That's a really good question. So, what I would say is, if you're using like PickFu or any third-party software like IntelliView or Product Opinion to do this split testing, first thing, it's an external tool, right? So do not fully trust that the data that you're going to get is like, absolutely 100%. The manager experiment is an internal tool. I highly recommend that you do it after you do the split testing on PickFu. But the main point is, it's important for you to understand that they are not your, ideal customers, that you're testing it with, right? So you have to write your question in such a way that you're extracting something else. You write a question in a different way. You put them in a framework. Like, for example, if your question is like, hey, which image do you like it better if I was selling on Amazon, right? That's basic and generic question. Like, instead, maybe put them into your ideal customers, shoes. Like, hey, looks like you're buying this for your, 35-year-old male friend, and your budget is about like $20 to $30, and you're shopping on Amazon, and it's like, for example, it's a Father's Day, occasion, and which product would you rather click on? So you put them in the idea. If your question can, put them in the shoes of your ICP, right? So that is one way, but still do not trust that fully. Sometimes one of my concerns with PickFu and these tools, you do like A/B testing, right? You compare like one of your best image to another best image, right? So you compare your two best images, but you never know, like the winner of your PickFu split testing may fail significantly when it is actually live, because now you're comparing it with dynamic, changes in the search results. Like new competitors are coming up, new competitors are going down, your ranking is fluctuating, right? Your winner may not even survive, like few days when your listing is actually live, right? So that's why I highly recommend that you do manage your experiments. That's number one. Also, pick the winner. We like to do a test, like for example, take a screenshot of your, like, let's say you're searching for a keyword, there's like a big search results, take zoomed out a screenshot and place your image, place your winner, like see if it breaks the pattern. If yes, only use that image. If not, maybe try that with the loser as well. Maybe PickFu failed your one image, but it might be very successful in the search result because it's breaking the pattern. So it's not a real, PickFu, and it's so you risk less. So it's still a very good start. You get really good feedback from those people. Asking a good question is the key if you're doing it on like PickFu or Intelligent.
That's a very good answer, Kamal. Thank you. So to follow it up, for example, we have the images and everything selected, right? Instead of having multiple images on PickFu, for example, can we select some of the competitor main image, and put that on PickFu and then let it fight each other? What do you think about that? Or should we test some images internally, select a best one, and let it fight with each other with the competitors?
Yeah, absolutely right. So you can do it with your competitors. You can do it with your previous image. You can do it with your existing image. You can do it with the new images that you created. So the goal is to get more and more iterations and more feedback, so that you make your main image like even better. So wherever you could get those ideas to reiterate your main image, I would recommend that you go and do it, right? So yeah, it's totally, there's nothing wrong with that. I would, you can get so many good ideas. Sometimes we don't see that from we have a biased opinion as a seller. Like we try to see things that we want to see in our product, and we don't want to we don't see the products things that your competitor has. But consumers, they don't have that biasness, right? So they see things totally differently. So yeah, it's always a great idea to compare it with your competitors as well. So you see those unknowns, that you have probably a blind spot on.
Exactly. Yeah. Miss, I got some surprise as well. Sometimes I do test, and one of the images will be my favorite, and I think, okay, this is going to win 100%. But it comes back with something else. So you'll get a lot of surprise with those tests.
Yeah.
And I want to pick your brain on Amazon's testing, right? Experiments. I think Amazon might show the product to the ideal customers, right? Because they are searching, right? That those customers will be searching for that specific product. So then it will be shown to them, right? So I think we might get more accurate feedback from that, because that those people have searched for that specific product. What's your take on that?
You mean my take on the manager experiment testing?
Yeah. I mean, so yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a real testing. You cannot really go wrong if if you have done your basic testing on external tools with lots of reiteration, you're good to go live on manager experiments. But I would not suggest that you start your split testing with manager experiments, right? Because you may have one terrible image and one really good image. Manager experiment is going to show 50% of the time, the other image 50%. So you're losing sales 50% of the time. So get ready, just do the warm up, on external tools. And then once you get your two winners, then you use manager experiments. That's the first thing I would say on manager experiments. Second one is back it up with PPC, right? Because if you're launching a new product, you don't have lots of traffic, and low traffic can give you false data. So once you have lots of traffic coming into your listing, it's organically ranked, then your sample size would be very big, and then you can make calculated and data-driven decisions. I see a lot of sellers, they just start with manager experiments, they forget about other testing, and 1 month later they're like, hey, this is my winner. When you look at the sample size, it's not even justified. This is the actual winner, because you need a really good now, when it's a brand new listing, your ranking is all over the place. You're getting traffic from the keywords that you don't even know exist, right? So those are kind of the issues that you deal with if you don't have a sample size. So these are my two takeaways from manager experiments. Otherwise, I think it is the real world testing, and if that's been working well, you're really good. You're good to go. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Kamal. My follow-up question will be, we have like a trend going on. For example, if it's a vitamin bottle, so to add that box right on the main image. And today I saw a post on LinkedIn. So they were saying that they have tried it, one with box, one without box, and the one without box got more click. So that's kind of against what we know, right? And I don't know, maybe it's because people are scrolling through mobile and the thumbnail is so small, they can't read what's inside the box. Maybe it's too cluttered. What do you think on that?
Was that a PickFu test, or was it like a manager experiment?
It's a PickFu test.
So yeah, if it's a PickFu one, it really okay, so if it's a product packaging, right? So if it's a supplement label, right? Yeah. Think of this. You have a lot of text on the product label as well, and you have a lot of text and colors on the product packaging. So if you're adding a product packaging in already a text-heavy product right behind it, it may look very cluttered. That is one reason, right? The second reason could be that it's on PickFu and people are probably reading the exact same thing on the label, and they would just see the product only, because now that product looks bigger, more closer, and more sharper and more appealing, right? And that could be one of the reasons that that people did choose that. So the product packaging, I think you have to use it in a very, so I have different strategies for main image, to stand out. So, and you have to use each strategy, depending on what kind of product it is and what kind of, search results you're seeing on the keyword results. So product packaging, I think it works really well if you have a giftable product packaging, or it's a premium product packaging, or if, let's say, for example, you're selling something which can give people unboxing experience, right? That is another good way of adding the product packaging. Or if none of your competitors, have product packaging in the main image, then you can add it to make it more, stand out. If there's quality concerns, average reviews are 4, less than 4, then adding a product packaging can increase the, increase the perceived, likelihood, of the quality of the product. So you have to use it very, if needed kind of thing. If you have a product packaging, it looks great, does not mean just throw it in the, in the main image.
Yeah.
Right? So it's very difficult to say just from the PickFu and without looking at the product packaging. I would assume that if it's a PickFu one, then chances are the other one looked a lot cleaner, a lot bigger, and people just, tend to choose that one. Other one, you're right, it may have looked cluttered or too colorful or too distracting. That is possible, and sometimes that could work if you wanna grab the attention from the search results. So that's why I mentioned winner of a PickFu does not really mean that it's gonna be winner on the Amazon search results.
Yeah, that's great. And the bottle was a vitamin bottle, and the information which was written on the bottle was exactly same what's on the box, and as you mentioned, so there was no new information. Maybe that's one of the reasons. I'm not sure, but.
Other thing I would like to add, when we're doing a split testing, a lot of the time we create similar image, and we accept, it's a similar image or similar concept, and we expect a different result, right? The image concepts have to be very different, right? So for example, packaging is also okay. Maybe did we change the product packaging a little bit? Maybe did we add any unique selling proposition or any keyword or to that product packaging so that it just stands out more, so that it just sticks out more? For example, I call this a label it strategy. Stephen Pope from Amazon Guy also talks about this a lot. So, just adding text, like blending in naturally with the product packaging or the product label. If you're using that to create a different concept, you might see different results. So if it's exact same, it's technically it's same concept, but people like instantly know it's the same product.
Exactly. And yeah, that's a very good point. Stephen was showing that, the printer, that's kind of the garlic press, right? When it prints out, it shows X amount of ink free or something like that. And
Exactly.
the monitor, it will have the monitor inside the information, right? Some infographic image. Yeah, something like that. That's great. I want to pick your brain on now the image stack that we have on Amazon, right? So is there any specific order that we need to follow? Like, the main image then should be infographic, or should it be lifestyle? So, or it depends on the category.
Okay, so it all depends on the product. Number one,
Yeah.
like see what kind of images they are really important, but there's only like 10 to 12 different types of images that you can create, and you just pick the best 5. Main image is there. The other 5, you just have to pick which one would suit the best, right? And then the 7th one is the video, right? So in order to pick your best 7 images, I can give you a generic formula, like generic stack, but feel free to, customize it, and I'll tell you like, different types of images that you can use. What has been working really well is, you got to show product in use. It's a lifestyle image, and if that product does have like multiple use cases, show them in a maybe a quadrant image or like a split screen, so that people could see. Because the reason why people buying this product so that they could use it in their daily life, and that use could be like multiple, even like a knife. You talk about knife, it's a kitchen knife, right? So you can still cut multiple types of like vegetables, meats, and stuff like that. So that's a different use cases. So every product has different use cases. So I would highly recommend that you focus at least one image on that, and ideally put it on a second image, right? And the third image is it's optional, only if needed. It's optional, but it could be very important, right? Just because it's optional does not mean, I'm not going to use it. Optional means if your product does come with like different accessories or bundle items together, do a package content image, like what it includes, right? A lot of the time, if people clicked on your listing, that means they're interested, they're willing to buy. Just show them what they're going to get, right, in a box. And a lot of the time, I've seen like so many listings, they're like, hey, everything looks good, we're trying to increase the conversion rate, but just by adding package include image, their conversion just goes up. Because people are ready to buy, but they're not able to make the decision because the competitor is showing exactly what they're going to get, and you're not. Even though your price is a little bit cheaper, even though your quality is a little bit better, but they don't want to waste their time by ordering, ordering a wrong product that they, may not need. So that image could be very important or may not be needed at all. So that is the third image that I like. Fourth one is talk about the features, and what we used to do or what used to work in the past, like having 3 or 4 different kinds of like images talking about the features. Now, everybody, what people are doing is just having one image with the bullet points or with icons, like people where it's not easy to miss those features. So have that image, very important. Then the benefits of the products, that's your image number 4th image, like talk about the benefits, core benefits. There could be multiple benefits. If yes, use the bullet point section or quadrant style image. A+ content is a good space. Video is a good space to use that, right? And 5th one is if your product does provide any sort of like, results, like if there's a proof that you can show to people, if there's any like process or plan or like comparison between your product and your competitors, or before use and after use, some kind of those images could be really, could really help in conversion. Like if it's the last image, think of that nail in the coffin, like, okay, perfect, this is exactly what I was looking for. So this is kind of the image stack that work. That's a generic one. It works. Like you can't go wrong if you're using this image stack, but obviously it's more about, iterations, testing. So that's the image stack that I have. But the key is not what kind of images you're using. The key is how you're creating those images, which will trigger the emotional touch with buyers, right? That's one way. How can people connect with, they can relate, with your product just by looking at those images. That is the key, right? Like what is not the key, how is the key here. So that's why, agencies like, ourselves or like experts out there, they do really come in very handy. So, and that's something a little bit difficult to explain as well, like how to create those images, but I have broken it down into two different frameworks, basically three. So let me talk about first framework. So framework is like how to create those images. I call it a visual reference framework. For example, if you're, let's say, I gave an example yesterday as well. For example, I'll give a different example. Let's say you're selling a vacuum cleaner, okay? And the feature of that vacuum cleaner that it's a lightweight, right? So you have two options. Either you can say that this is 3 kilograms, its weight is 3 kilograms, right? That is one option to show that it's lightweight. I'm just making it up, by the way. I don't know if 3 kilograms is lightweight or heavyweight. So let's say if it's a 3 kilogram vacuum cleaner and it's a lightweight, that is one way of showing your feature. Or the other option of showing that feature is, a young lady carrying it with one hand and going upstairs or going downstairs. That's a visual reference. So two concepts. Both are talking about the same feature, but how you create is very different. So one framework that you can use is show your feature in a visual reference. That's one framework. Second framework is the emotional triggers. So there's like extreme emotions. So there's like 3 extreme emotions that you can use in your images. Extreme use, extreme conditions, extreme use, extreme condition. I'm forgetting the other one. For example, let's say the same vacuum cleaner, right? You're creating a lifestyle image. You could be like, hey, it has a very high suction power, right? You can say that in the infographics, like, made with this and, this material, very high suction power. Or you can create an image where there's like lots of dog hair in the house, like multiple pets in the house, and the vacuum just cleans and the carpet comes out brand new. So that's a visual reference instead of like just saying, hey, it's a high suction power. So people can, it's an extreme use of that product, right? Extreme conditions could be, let's say you're selling waterproof camera, right? Show it in the actual storm. Like you can Photoshop it, but show it in the actual like stormy night. So which is an extreme condition. The other one was that I was talking about extreme emotions that I was forgetting. So for example, if you're selling an anti-slip bathroom mat, you can just show it in the bathroom and with the text or like with the other image. Or maybe you can show it with a pregnant lady stepping onto it and it's an extreme emotion. So people are automatically going to assume that this is a higher quality product. If pregnant lady is using it, it has to be safe. What it does, it triggers the extreme emotion. So that's like a very decision-making kind of image. They're like, okay, I'm going to buy this product. So these are the two frameworks. I can talk about the third one, but it will be like very long. So these are the two frameworks that you can use to make your images a lot better. Like it's easier to say like, hey, create this image, but that's not going to help you. What's going to help you is the how of that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I mean, I was surprised, so many data points that you had to squeeze into that, 6 or 7 images, right? Profile, customer profile, pain points, as you mentioned, feelings, use case, comparison, much information that we have to squeeze in, the measurements. So if you think about it, and I think most of the sellers miss those points, right? But I want to cross-reference now with those information, for example, with Rufus that we have now, right? So Rufus might look into those, like, for example, an age of if you have a lifestyle image. I'm not sure if that will happen at some point. Maybe they will pick the age of that infographic if it's a woman holding the Hoover. So, the age of that woman, maybe it will take into account as well. So how we optimize the images for Rufus, for example?
Optimize for
the Rufus, the AI, Amazon, yeah.
Okay. So how do we optimize our images for
Amazon's Rufus, yes.
Okay, Amazon's Rufus. To be honest, I don't have much experience with that. I think it's what I have seen is I've never seen any image come back or like, hey, it's not been detected by Amazon's AI system. But normally I think the AI is getting better and better and would detect something. And sorry, probably not the right person, or like I don't have that in-depth knowledge of that topic. Sorry about that.
Yeah. You are the image person, can focus on image, right? That's great. Thank you, Kamal. My next point will be, we are kind of on the image side, we are kind of on the gray area, right? People putting a lot of stuff on the main image. Will that, regarding compliance, right? Amazon's policies, So how much risk we can take for the main image? Just adding box is fine, but going further, where should we stop?
Okay, so first rule is that you always have a backup image, which is very safe. And if there's any suppression, you can just change it like right away. So the only risk that you have is how long of a downtime you can afford on that listing, right? If you have a listing which is like in the gray area and it gets suppressed and you have no way to find out for like, month or 2 months that your listing is suppressed. Some people are like that, they have a product running, few products, they just go travel, they have a VA looking at, the emails. You can manage your downtime if you have like really good risk reversal process, like you have a VA checking in your listings every single day, or you stay on your top of email, any suppression emails, right? If you have a backup image ready, you can push your limits as much as you want. There's nothing stopping you, right? A lot of sellers, they get scared. They're like, oh, I don't want to take it. That they just because you will have few hours of downtime and you're missing out on like 6 months of unfair advantage or like 2 years of unfair advantage, take some risk. I would do that all day long, right? So because there are like softwares out there that can send you a notification like, hey, you got a suppression, right? So the downtime is very low these days and people are still afraid to take risk. I would say, push your limits. And there's different rules for different categories. Some categories, you can go wild, do whatever. Amazon does not care about that. You can even have like lifestyle images, as a main image. Amazon's like totally fine with that. And in some categories, Amazon is like super strict, right? So it really depends what category you are in. That's that's the second rule, right? The third rule is when you're taking a risk, make sure you're taking a risk within the limits of your product in the image, if that makes sense. Don't do stuff on the white space around the product. Do stuff on the product or behind the product or like, slightly around. So that is your like safe area where you can do graphics, where you can do some like props, where you can, add some colors and stuff like that. So, or inside the product, for example, if you're selling a dispenser, you can put liquid inside it. And that liquid color could be anything. The purpose is not, we do like so many dispensers and everything. Recently we did it's like a dispenser product. And it was like mostly dispensers, they're like transparent, they're glass, they're plastic, they don't have any color. And the purpose, people actually show like, so you can go like wild, within the product limits, not on the white space. So that is the third rule that I like to get, that I like to, use. And if the third rule is, being followed, your listing would, 90% of the time would go through, perfectly fine and it will not be suppressed. That's what I have seen, which works really well.
Oh, that's great, Kamal. The point that you mentioned was, the risk versus reward, right? So with those measures that you mentioned, I think the risk will be much lower. You can bring the risk down much lower, right? So that's great. Thank you. And regarding the image stack that we mentioned, right? Is that set and forget, or should we change it periodically? And if so, what will be that frequency?
I would only change if your conversion is low, right?
Okay.
If your traffic is up and you're seeing conversions, it's in double digits, you can check your competitors through brand analytics and you can check their sale versus your sales. Don't change too much. You can, but it will not have like a huge significant effect that I have noticed. But it can work at a very big scale. For example, if you have a product doing like 50,000 a month, 60,000 a month, and then making those changes would be worth making those changes. You can use like heat maps and see where the people's attention is going. But if your conversion's fine, don't bother changing too much, because that's like too much going on and it's hard to keep track of everything. If you are like if you have like decent amount of SKUs, there's no system of you like, hey, which image did I put last week? And it's just like permutation and combinations. We have seen sellers tried it, but it's just you can do it for your winners, as I mentioned, like if something's doing like $1 million a year kind of thing. But otherwise it's just focus on the main image, because every time you change a main image, you save it and Amazon can find a different keyword or like, every time you save the listing, there's always a risk that Amazon may notice something and be like, hey, this is not right in the listing. So why do that if your conversion is good?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And my other question was for each images, we can add a meta tag, right? Keywords behind the images. Is there any specific software that you suggest to put those keywords?
For the meta tags, Photoshop, this is what we have been using. So if you're using Photoshop, there's different places you can add keywords. There's a description in the Photoshop. You can add some keywords there. Photoshop file name, can have those keywords. And Photoshop also gives you a specific area where you can add meta keywords. So you can add your keywords here. So just Photoshop is good enough to have the image SEO. And if you're talking about A+ content, then Amazon also gives you like, up to 100 characters of like every module, module keyword. So you can leverage that for A+ content, image kind of SEO. But Photoshop has been working really well. Google likes it because Amazon's ranking has a lot of other factors. So the reason you do like image SEO a lot so that you can also get indexed on like Google Images and like, a bunch of other. Yeah, so Google loves Photoshop meta tags.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. And I want to ask you about image localization. For example, for US and for the UK, the image might be, kind of similar, or Europe. But if you go to China or in Africa or India, that image might be, we should have it different, right? So what's your take on that? What all factors that we have to keep in mind when we create those images?
There's very few products and very few requests that we have seen where people really wanted to like, to localize their image. So as long as your setup is kind of a Western setup, right? And it's generic, like, it's like if you, for example, we do shoots in like China as well. We do shoots. We have a studio in Bali, Indonesia. We have studio in Canada and USA. So as long as it looks Western, it does not look very off, you should be fine. Unless you have like a very clear idea that your 90% of traffic is coming from like California, then it would make sense to maybe have some shots of LA or something like that so that people could connect a lot more with that. But I don't have enough sample size to surely say that if localization is really powerful.
Yeah, I think that will come into the final stage of optimization, like changing the model to represent the country, for example. That's great.
Sorry, Seb, I would like to add that most requests, I don't know if I should say that or not, but requests that we do get, they ask for like Caucasian model. Like we have like models from like all ethnicities, but almost everybody would just go for a Caucasian model. That is one thing. So yeah, because sellers, they do want to target the mass audience, right? Yeah. So one of the benefits of going on a marketplace like Amazon is, going globally, the goal is to sell like in the entire United States. So localization, I think it's probably for if your demographics and your geographical target audience is like very narrow or specific, then it would make a lot more sense. Mostly we find like the other way around. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
great. Thank you. You mentioned about the studio that you have, right? So you have studio in China, Bali, and Canada. How does the system work? Should we just send the product to your studio? Yeah. You take the images and you can either recall it or you keep it. Could you just let us know?
Yeah, absolutely right. So if your product is kind of a lot of products, they need like a tropical background, beaches, like premium high quality lifestyle setups, then we send them to Bali. We ask our clients, I think Bali would be a really good location for this product. And Canada, like for winter products, we have like really good, like fast moving products like the stock images with the Photoshop. We have like very, high end machines where we could do like pictures like, very quickly. So those products come to Canada. China, if it's an oversized product or somebody's really tight on timeline, so they're like, I don't have time to ship it across the countries, then, we would just do it in China. So the process is like really, really simple. If somebody's looking to get the, listing done or optimized, just hop on a call with us. We'll take a look at your product. We kind of talk about, the plan, your goals and the budget. and we come up with a customized solution for you. And in that solution would be like which studio we're going to use. Then you ship your product there. We do all the research. We share all the plans on a PowerPoint presentation, video screenplays as well. We tell you like what exactly are we going to do, and if you need any changes, now is the time. So we do those changes on the PowerPoint presentation. Then we do the production. It could be anywhere. Process is the same. No matter which studio it goes. Then once the production's done, graphic design, video editing, like all sort of good stuff, like post-production stuff comes in. Once that is done, quality check, we send it to client. And if there's any changes which are still needs to be done, we offer like, up to, like as many changes as you want, up to 30 days. And, once 30 days period is over, like, we wrap up the project, and then we kind of track the monitoring, right? So we have like two ways of either you could stay with us and we can track your monitoring and keep making those changes, or you can do it on your own and come back if something isn't working the way that we expected, and then we kind of make those changes along the way. So that's the process.
That's great. That's great. So do you have any partners in the Europe, for example, or should we send the product to Canada? What do you suggest for the European customers?
If your product is in China, then I would recommend, then for China, your suppliers could send it to everywhere. Like if you have somebody in Europe, like your physical sample is in Europe, we don't really have any partners at this moment, but I'm always looking to expand. In the Europe, like, I find we have really good friends, Zon Photo Vadim, he's, I don't know if you know him. He's been a really good friend of mine. You can take their services, but, we find that the European service providers, they're a little bit more expensive, even though we do want to partner with somebody, and they're like, there's like high prices, because AMZ One Step is known for like, creating listings at volume at lower margins. But most of the creative agencies, they work with very fewer clients. They have like very high pricing. So we work a little bit, our system is designed for volume, for like, mass production. Yeah.
That's great. And I assume, most of the people, even if it's a European customer, most of the products will be coming from China, right? So if you have a studio in China, you will have the pictures and everything ready before the product lands in the Europe, for example, right? So that's great. And yeah, I think image is quite important, right? If you're on the mobile also, that's something that you scroll, your fingers go straight away, swipe and see all those images. So before we read the bullet points or A+ content. So that's some great points that you mentioned, Kamal. Again, I will put the link to AMC One Stop down in the show notes. Kamal, do you want to say something else about your company as well? Like, the website and any other services that you offer, including the images and videos. So if you do.
If you're looking for like any creative needs, brand new listing, or looking to increase the conversions on your existing listing with creatives, we do everything like photos, videos, 3D rendering, A+ content, premium A+ content. So yeah, just give us a call, or visit amz1step.com. We'll be very happy to, jump on a call with you guys and take any questions that you guys may have. But yeah, even if you have an in-house team or in-house freelancer that you're working with, just make sure that the images are high quality, well researched, and you as a seller taking your creatives very seriously. I find that sometimes, when sellers, they cross the 7-figure or 8-figure mark, they tend to kind of ease up on the creative sides, and that is, it should be the other way around. That is the time when more and more of testing and more creatives should be tested. So yeah, so just good luck to all the viewers, listeners. That's all from my side. And
that's great. Thanks a lot. Yeah, more than welcome. Thanks a lot, Kamal, for all your valuable inputs. And we have learned a lot. That's great. Thanks a lot for coming up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.